Imagine waking up tomorrow, opening Instagram, and seeing another 20-year-old claiming he built an AI startup that's already worth millions. You scroll. Another entrepreneur promises you'll make six figures with dropshipping. Scroll again. Someone else is selling an automation agency. Then another AI tool. Another SaaS company. Another crypto project. Everywhere you look, it feels like everyone is building the future. And after a while, you start wondering if you're already too late. Maybe you've had that thought before. Have I missed the opportunity? Because that's what the internet does. It makes wealth look loud, fast, glamorous. But while millions of people are fighting over the exact same opportunities, some of the smartest entrepreneurs are quietly building something completely different. Not another AI app, not another crypto exchange, not another viral brand. They're building businesses so ordinary that most people never notice them. Today, you'll see one of the biggest wealth shifts happening right now and why it has almost nothing to do with the businesses people can't stop talking about. By the end of this, you may start looking at opportunity in a completely different way. There's something strange about the companies that quietly become worth billions. Most people have never heard of them, not because they're small, because they're boring. When was the last time you got excited about a rubbish truck, or a pest control van, or someone delivering industrial uniforms? Probably never. Yet some of the biggest fortunes in modern history were built doing exactly those things. Take rubbish collection. In previous decades, waste disposal wasn't considered an exciting industry. Someone simply realized that as cities grow, they never stop producing rubbish. That simple observation eventually helped build waste management into one of the largest environmental services companies in the world. Today, it's worth well over £100 billion. Think about that. One of the world's most valuable companies exists because somebody has to empty your bin. Now imagine a company whose entire business is killing termites, cockroaches, and mosquitoes. That's Orkin, owned by Rollins. Today, Rollins is worth tens of billions. Not because insects became fashionable, because insects never disappeared. Then there's Cintas, uniforms, floor mats, cleaning supplies, first aid cabinets. Things nobody notices until they're missing. Today, Cintas is worth well over £80 billion. And these three are not outliers. Look closer, and the pattern keeps repeating. Copart built its fortune on something almost nobody thinks about: storing and auctioning wrecked cars after accidents. Every crash, every insurance claim, every total loss vehicle has to go somewhere. Copart simply became the place. Today it's worth tens of billions too. Old Dominion Freight Line hauls boxes on trucks between warehouses. That's the entire business. Boxes on trucks. It's worth tens of billions as well. 3 companies, 6 companies. The number keeps growing the deeper you look. One pattern: they didn't create demand, they solved problems that already existed. People have always produced rubbish. Buildings have always attracted pests. Workers have always needed uniforms. Cars have always crashed. Goods have always needed moving from one place to another. Technology changes. Human problems barely do. Most entrepreneurs spend years trying to convince people they need something new. The best businesses often solve problems people are already paying to solve. Social media rewards attention. The economy rewards usefulness. Then AI arrived. Instead of replacing many of these businesses, it gave the best-run ones superpowers. A plumbing company with online booking, AI customer support, automatic invoicing and review requests suddenly looks less like an old trade and more like a modern technology company that happens to fix pipes. The companies creating millionaires in 2026 aren't just boring businesses. They're boring businesses running with modern systems. Now here's something worth understanding about why your brain skips right past these opportunities in the first place. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman spent decades studying how people evaluate risk and reward, work that eventually earned him a Nobel Prize. One of his central findings was that people consistently overweight the odds of rare, dramatic outcomes, like a startup exploding into a billion-dollar company overnight, while underweighting outcomes that are slow, steady, and far more statistically likely. In plain terms, your brain is drawn to the lottery ticket story, even when the boring, reliable path is mathematically the better bet. That's not a flaw specific to you, it's a wiring issue almost everyone shares. Behavioral economist Richard Thaler built on this idea for years, showing that people are drawn toward what feels vivid and exciting even when the less exciting option performs better in the long run. A 22-year-old announcing an AI startup on camera is vivid. A 60-year-old quietly running a regional HVAC company for 30 years is not. Your brain remembers the first story and completely ignores the second, even though the second one is far more likely to actually make someone wealthy. This is exactly why boring businesses stay undervalued for so long. Not because they're bad opportunities, because almost nobody's attention naturally gravitates toward them. If this was only a story about rubbish collection or pest control, it wouldn't be very interesting. The real story is why these businesses are becoming even more valuable today. For almost 20 years, software, apps, and digital products dominated wealth creation. But every opportunity has a life cycle. Eventually, everyone arrives. That's exactly what's happening with AI startups. Thousands of companies are building similar products. The easier software becomes to create, the harder it becomes to stand out. Now compare that with a plumbing company, or a commercial cleaning business, or mobile car detailing. Your competition isn't the entire internet, it's a handful of businesses in your city. Then there's demographics. Over the next decade, millions of experienced plumbers, electricians, mechanics, and HVAC technicians will retire while fewer young people enter those professions. Demand continues to rise. Supply struggles to keep up. That makes these businesses even more valuable. Economists have described this exact pattern playing out across small business ownership more broadly. A huge share of the owners of ordinary local companies are approaching retirement age, and many of them have no successor lined up. No child wants to take over. No employee has the capital to buy them out. So the business either closes or it sells at a fraction of what it's actually worth to whoever shows up with cash and a willingness to run it. That creates a strange kind of opportunity. There are more good, profitable businesses looking for a buyer than there are people who actually want to buy them, simply because almost nobody is looking in that direction. Now combine that gap with AI. AI answers inquiries, books appointments, creates invoices, schedules routes, handles marketing. The owner spends more time delivering the service and less time doing paperwork. The service didn't change, the business did. MIT economist Eric Brynjolfsson has spent years researching where technology actually creates the biggest productivity gains in the real economy, and his findings consistently point somewhere unexpected. The biggest gains often don't come from brand new companies inventing something nobody's seen before. They come from mature, ordinary businesses making small, unglamorous technological upgrades. Not reinvention, refinement. That's the actual playbook happening right now, quietly, across thousands of small businesses. Keep what already works. Add the modern layer on top. Text reminders instead of phone calls. Online scheduling instead of a receptionist juggling a landline. A simple dashboard instead of a notebook full of handwritten routes. None of it looks exciting from the outside. All of it compounds. This is where the idea of a moat becomes useful. A moat, in simple terms, is whatever stops someone else from copying your business and taking your customers. Investor Warren Buffett popularized the idea, and it reshaped how a whole generation thought about long-term value. A trendy skincare brand has almost no moat. Someone finds the same supplier, runs similar ads, and copies the entire model within weeks. A septic tank cleaning company has a real moat, and it has nothing to do with creativity. It's licensing, trucks, years of local reputation, relationships with property managers who call the same number every single time something goes wrong. Nobody wakes up excited to compete for that customer. That's exactly why the moat holds. There's also a compounding effect happening underneath all of this that's easy to miss. A pest control company doesn't make money once from a customer. It makes money from that same customer every 90 days, for years, while slowly gaining referrals, reputation, and route density, meaning trucks spend less time driving between jobs and more time actually working. Each of those small advantages stacks on top of the last one. A flashy brand can spike overnight and crash just as fast. A boring business built on repeat customers and real barriers to entry tends to just keep going, slowly, steadily, without a single viral moment required. History rewards people who solve old problems with new tools. The next generation of millionaires may not come from inventing entirely new industries. Many will come from modernizing industries the rest of the world forgot about. While everyone else chases attention, these businesses quietly build necessity. And necessity has a remarkable habit of compounding. There's something almost ironic about the way we search for success. We assume the biggest opportunities must look extraordinary, that they have to involve cutting-edge technology, a revolutionary idea, or a business nobody has ever thought of before. But history tells a different story. Some of the world's greatest fortunes weren't built by inventing entirely new problems. They were built by solving old problems better than everyone else. The internet has trained us to chase attention. Every day, we see another founder announcing the next big thing, another overnight success, another promise that this is the future. But the economy doesn't reward what gets the most views. It rewards what creates the most value. And those aren't always the same thing. The person fixing air conditioners during a heat wave, the company collecting waste from thousands of homes, the team keeping hospitals clean, they may never trend on social media. But society notices the moment they stop showing up. That's what makes these businesses powerful. They're not built on hype, they're built on necessity, and necessity doesn't go out of fashion. Now, does that mean everyone watching this should quit their job tomorrow and start a pest control company? Of course not. That's not the point. The point is much bigger than that. The biggest opportunities are often hidden behind problems everyone else ignores. Sometimes that's a business. Sometimes it's a career. Sometimes it's a skill. The question isn't what's exciting. The question is, what problem will people still gladly pay to solve 10 years from now? Because while the world races toward whatever is new, wealth has a strange habit of quietly accumulating around whatever remains essential. Maybe that's why so many of tomorrow's millionaires won't look like yesterday's. They won't necessarily build the next social network or invent the next viral app. Some of them will simply build the best plumbing company in their city, the most reliable cleaning service, the most efficient waste management business, or the HVAC company that every homeowner recommends. Not because those businesses are glamorous, but because they're useful. And usefulness has always been one of the most undervalued forms of wealth. This shift even has a name inside business schools now. It's often called entrepreneurship through acquisition, or search fund investing. It started quietly at business schools like Stanford and Harvard back in the 1980s, staying a niche strategy for a small number of graduates for decades. But after 2020, several things collided at once. Interest rates shifted, retiring owners kept multiplying, and a wave of people burned out on hustle culture entrepreneurship started looking for something more durable. By 2026, that collision is fully visible, not as a trend on your feed because it isn't loud enough to trend, but in the actual numbers of ordinary people quietly buying laundromats, vending machine routes, HVAC companies, and regional service businesses, and running them better than the previous owner ever did. None of them are famous for it. That's kind of the whole point. So here's something concrete you can actually do with this today. Open your Notes app right now and write down one ordinary, unglamorous problem you've noticed people around you complaining about repeatedly. Not a trend, not a headline, something small, recurring, and slightly annoying that nobody's excited to solve. That single note is worth more than another hour spent scrolling through someone else's highlight reel. So the next time you scroll past another ad promising overnight success, remember this. The loudest opportunities are usually the most crowded. The quiet ones are often where the future is already being built. Maybe becoming a millionaire in 2026 isn't about chasing the next big thing. Maybe it's about becoming indispensable.